Welcome back to the Altis podcast. I am your host, Stu McMillan. The Altis Speed Summit has come and gone, but the conversations are far from over. We are working on a really cool digital product that builds on what we started in Chicago. We filmed everything. We filmed secondary presentations from many of the presenters. We're going to put together, a little bit of written content as well. It's going to be a really cool project. So look out for that. It's coming very soon. Today's guest is someone I actually met for the first time in Chicago from STATSports, Kaitlyn Cunningham. Someone whose journey really embodies the spirit of growth and redefinition we talked quite a lot about at the summit. Kaitlyn spent over a decade as a Division I strength and conditioning coach, leading programs at Clemson, Kent State, and Eastern Illinois before stepping away from the grind of college sport to pursue something different. Now with STATSports, she works at the intersection of coaching and technology, helping teams and coaches make better use of the data that's increasingly shaping how we prepare and perform. Thank you once again to our incredible sponsors, 3x4 Genetics, STATSports, 1080 Sprint, Team Builder, and Output Sports. Now let's get into our podcast with Kaitlyn Cunningham.
I lead, mentor, and connect. By title, I'm an account manager at STATSports, but my role is just a piece of who I am. I think beyond that, I enjoy helping others unlock their potential, whether that's through guidance or support, or just simply being someone that people can trust. And why do I do it? Because life is bigger than me. I want to help people chase their dreams, build meaningful relationships, rooted in trust, because I think that can take you a long way. And then honestly, just spread a little more love by connecting with people in the world that desperately needs it. And then I think for myself, just committed to never stopping growing, because it's the best way to lift others up, is to keep rising and learning myself.
I feel like we could just stop the podcast there, and that's a pretty good podcast.
That's taken a lot of growth, Stu. A lot of growth. If you asked me that 10 years ago when I was coaching, that's probably not the answer you would have gotten. So,
Are there any specific things that have happened that have given you that sort of wisdom and insight at this point in your career? Or is it just sort of, okay, life happens, work happens, and this is kind of, you figure out eventually what's important to you? And has that been a really active process for you, or you just kind of, wake up one day and say, it's about this and not that?
much more active, I think. Some, big probably life events, which many people have probably gone through. Parents divorce, brother was sent to military school, so some family things, that you start to realize like life is way bigger than me. And how can I make situations better, not only for myself, but those around me. And then I think when I was coaching, having unbelievable mentors, who just helped guide me and continue to push me to grow. For example, Andrea Hootie graduated college, went out, did an internship, and she called me and was like, "Are you going to keep hanging out or go get your master's?" And I was like, "Okay, need to go get my master's." Um, so amazing people, right, that have just helped mold and shape me. And then I hope one day I can give that back to people as well.
Yeah, that's so important. And I just realized I forgot to bring my little pad of paper, pen. So give me 20 seconds.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
After joking that we're going to edit, you're any of the mistake you make. I'm the one who's going to make a mistake that we got to edit out. Because there's some threads I want to pull on, but maybe not until later.
Okay.
So I just want to. I think it's my brain is old and I can't remember things in my brain anymore, so I need to write it down. Why did you choose sport to help you do this thing?
Great question. I think sport really helped mold me into the person that I am today. Um, and then I ultimately got into coaching because I had unbelievable mentors when I was in college. Um, Two very strong female presences in the weight room. And I was like, man, I want to be like those two.
Nice.
Um, so yeah, I think ultimately you can go a long way with the lessons you learn in sport. And I thought no better way to do it than help mold young people to do the exact same that people did for me.
What sport did you play or sports?
Played basketball and soccer, and then stopped basketball once I got to middle school and high school, and stuck with soccer. Ended up playing all the way through college at the University of Kansas.
Nice.
Yeah,
It's the best sport.
that's fantastic. Most people don't understand it, right? But
Well, most Americans.
yeah,
Americans are dumb.
definitely.
I'm not knowing that most of the people who listen to this are Americans. I'm just joking. I love Americans. America is dumb though. But there's many smart people in it.
Definitely.
Talk to me more about mentorship
Mhm.
and the importance of that. And then, you're obviously you're still a young person, but you're getting to a point in your career now where that, you mentioned that's important to you to mentor young people, or not even necessarily young people, but maybe less experienced people or other people other than yourself. And you've said it now two or three times that that was really important for you growing up. You had great mentors. You had really people that you could tell, okay, I really love what this person is doing. I need to do that. And now you're the type of person who will be, other people are going to be looking at you and the work that you're doing. Say, I need to be doing that. What, talk to me generally about that process. And then how do you, and do you, if I guess the first question is, do you actively try to become a better mentor? And then what kind of processes do you put in place to work on that?
Mhm. Oh yeah. I feel like there's a lot of routes we could go here, but I think number one, to be able to give back, right? And just be able to do what others have done for me. I think one great example was as a collegiate strength coach, when COVID hit, we had internships set up for people to come join us on site. And if, with the way COVID went, that was no longer a thing. So I got with my then coworker, men's basketball strength coach, who I worked alongside, Mike Bewley, and I said, we have to do something to impact the younger strength coaches who no longer have the opportunity to do internships. And fortunate, he was very tech savvy. So we built a website and we did a virtual internship with 20 plus interns that entire summer for 2020.
Nice.
Um, so I think problem
Was
solving.
that your first sort of detour into mentoring others?
Yeah, I always enjoyed having interns, but that wasn't like I wasn't the one setting the internship up and building those curriculums. That was my first opportunity to really work, get my hands really dirty in building that, what that needed to look like. We took all perspectives, leadership, because I think you and I talked about this at Altis, like people are not put in positions to actually lead and build those skills, right? They get out of school and then they're expected to go get into a job and they've actually never been in a position to lead a room, lead a team, lead anybody besides themselves. So we talked a lot about leadership. That was every single week. There was some sort of leadership bled into that. And then just fundamentals of coaching and, X's and O's per, so to say, strength and conditioning. So that was the first time I got really down in the weeds with it. Really, really enjoyed it. Still talk to a lot of those people to this day, and have great relationships with them. Um, yeah, hopefully that answers your question.
Is that something that just came naturally on you, or is that something that you worked on yourself? You wanted, first of all, to be able to teach somebody how to be a better leader, you have to kind of be a decent leader yourself.
Sure.
Is that something you worked on when you were a coach, when you were actively coaching, when you're a younger coach? Was there somebody who's helping you through that, or is that something that you looked maybe external to sport to learn more about? That's question number one. And question number two is then now when you're helping these, younger coaches, intern coaches, whatever, become better leaders and talking to them about the importance of communication and leadership, where are you pulling that information from?
Sure. I think to answer your first question, I had outside people. So not only people in the strength and conditioning world, but had a leadership coach, somebody who does this with high level sports teams, Fortune 500 companies, right? Like all across the board there, helping me because obviously every leader has different strengths and weaknesses. Um, I'm a huge people pleaser, and I'm recovering. I guess that's the better way to put that, a recovering people pleaser. So there were certain things I needed to work on, but I think to answer your second question is I had to be the example of that, right? In order to continue to grow myself as a leader, for younger people to see that it's okay to make mistakes and fall, but to get back up and to continue to grow and become a better leader year in and year out. So
And how do you do that? Where do you get the information from? Is it books that the books that you read or the courses that you take? Is it just
yeah, all of it.
experience? All of it.
Yeah, experience, books, podcasts,
Hmm.
asking better questions. I honestly sucked at that when I was younger. I think I was afraid to ask questions. And I've gotten better at that and just honestly can't worry about what other people think. If I ask a so-called stupid question, it's still hopefully helping me to get better and to grow.
And there's lots of stupid questions as we talk at the summit. Um, so this kind of leads me into part of the role and part of what you do now,
Mhm.
because it's been my experience, and I'm totally biased here. You may have a totally different experience. So you definitely do have a totally different set of experiences, but you may agree with what I say here or not. But it's for me, the advent and the popularization of technology over the course of the last decade, 2 decades, has led to coaches becoming worse at communicating and not developing their leadership skills, not developing what we would have traditionally called just coaching. I feel like, this is something I've talked about quite a lot with a few of the other guests as well, I feel like coaching is getting worse. I really do. And we forget that coaching is coaching. It's not, you're not science is important and sports science is really important. And technology is important. It's a part of coaching. And I think sometimes people forget that and they become a little bit over reliant upon the technology. So I guess the question to you would be is that been your experience? Has technology led to a decrease in the quality of coaching in your experience? Or is just the quality of coaching gone down and that just happens that technology is increased through the course of that? Or maybe you just totally disagree with me to begin with.
No, I would argue that I do agree with you. I think I experienced it myself as a coach. I think ultimately you have to have the relationship with your staff, whether that's support staff with athletic trainers, medicine, head coaches, sport coaches, but then also the athletes, to build that trust that the information you're getting from technology can then help them to make the best informed decision for their team, for their individual, athlete that they're working with, whatever that looks like. But I think people get so reliant on the data and the numbers and then aren't actually doing the work to coach and to help build that relationship so that that can be a tool, not just the actual guiding principle.
So what's the solution? And
Maybe
what
start
do you and what
without
do you do in
technology.
your role now? Like, I guess talk to us a little bit about what your role is now, and maybe how do you do anything within that role to help some of the younger coaches use the technology in this way? And hey, don't forget, you're still coaching, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of times when I get with a client, and they're just beginning to use the system, let's just collect some data. We don't need to go run to a sport coach immediately and, say the numbers are crazy or we're not doing enough, whatever that picture looks like. It's how can we build a story with the data in order to help guide and steer those conversations. I think Joe Clubb spoke very, very eloquently about this at the Altis Summit with knowing who you're delivering the information to and what they want to know.
Yeah.
Because us as coaches have, to your point, a very good understanding of the science and the backing of this information, but then a sport coach might not have any idea what all of that means. So how do you deliver that to them uh, in a way that they can understand and comprehend that? And I'll be honest, in my journey, I think the best thing that ever happened to me was I started out somewhere that couldn't afford technology. So I had to learn how to do things without it. And then it was just an added bonus as I continued to grow throughout my career.
Yeah,
So
I agree 100% with you. I mean, older people like me, well, we didn't have any option, right? We had to coach without tech, and we figured out, how to justify or objectively kind of quantify the stuff that we did without really a lot of, science behind it often.
yeah,
Um, and now that that stuff is there, I feel like, if I'm guiding younger coaches in the first year or two in this world, like just do a couple years when you don't use any tech at all. Honestly, don't use it, and then start using it the way you did. All right, let me just collect some data and figure out what this means without using it yet. And then maybe I introduce some more technology to it and start quantifying and other things. And then I can start making sense of all of this. And then we start to use it. So within that, it's like the responsibility ultimately is on the person using. It's not on the technology or the technology company themselves. But I wonder, is that something that you guys internally at Stats talk about? Like, all right, can we help coaches tell these stories like Joe was talking about? Is that something you guys talk about so you can help educate users on that part of it? Or you see your role as just here's the tech, these are the numbers. It's up to you now how to tell the stories and what to do with those numbers.
yeah. I think at least I can speak for myself. That's like my number one goal because it ultimately helps the user find value in our product, right? So it's like if I just leave it up to them to figure it out, they ultimately then are left to steer their own ship. And if I am the expert with our product, then I believe that I can only help guide and steer them in the right direction so that they can help their coaches. I can't tell them exactly what metrics to look at because every team, every coach style of play is different, individuals are different. But I can help kind of guide and steer them into different buckets that they can potentially look at. And then over time, they can start to look at trends and things specific to their organization and then figure out what is the most important, piece of deliverable data.
Can you take me through that? So I'm a potential client. I talk to you. Hey, Kaitlyn, I'm interested in doing this. I'm going to trial it for the next month. What does it look like for me? What does that journey look like between the two of us? Like what? Talk us through how we go through that.
Yeah, so we do demos. We have a team, sales team, and then a sports scientist. And so get connected with them, talk through everything, and then you actually get some units, some hardware in hand, some software, and then ultimately learn how to use the system in a matter of a couple days.
Yeah.
Um, and then to your point, now it's, hey, what can we look at volume? Can we look at intensity, density, different metrics? And then really start to get them to kind of see the big picture and the value that it can add to your program, your organization, your company, whatever that might be. And then it ultimately just helps, everybody be happy in the long run because you see the value, we see the value, and we can ultimately continue to help you because we've only scratched the surface in a matter of what, a couple weeks, a month, the time that you've used it. And then we can really paint a bigger picture with obviously more longevity of data and a bit in a longer time frame.
What does that process look like for somebody that you really enjoy working with, compared with somebody that, I don't really like working with this person? Like, what is the difference between that? Like, what are you looking for in a good partner within this?
Yeah, I think my number one objective is to build trust. And it's from my perspective, right? Because to most people, just a washed up strength coach who now works with a technology company. Um, but I think there's also beauty in that I understand the world that they're living in and hair on fire mentality of we need the data, we need it right now. So if there's any issues, if there's things that they don't understand, I can be a sounding board. Um, and it just makes a win-win situation. I get to kind of be back in the strength and conditioning world, and uh, and they get someone who completely understands the things that they're going through and experiencing day in and day out. I honestly don't have many people that I don't enjoy working with. There's just a plethora of people in different arenas. So I get to learn new sports, different tactics, different things, and hear different philosophies and, you know, ideologies that people have.
How do they differ between sports in your experience? You've got most of the soccer teams do X, most of the rugby teams do Y, most of the football teams do C. Is that kind of how it is, or is there more variability than that within the sports?
Yeah, I think it's the variability in the depth in which people go into the data. A lot of people like, I'm going to export the raw data. We're going to put it into Excel. We have a sports science team and, data analytics that are going to dive super deep into all of this. And then you have other people who just want to export a PDF report
Hmm.
straight from our software. Um, so there's differing levels there. And then I think for me, the fun part is to watch like how are they developing speed and thus utilizing our software and hardware to prove that they've actually done that with their athletes. And then, different things on like what are we looking on match day and comparing to different training days, being 1, 2, or 3 days out from that match day. Um, I have a little experience in just about every sport from my background in coaching, but um, again, it's fun to learn more. I knew nothing about rugby coming into working at STATSports, and now I work with multiple people who have played it at a very high level, so I'm constantly learning things there. But then also seeing the crossover, like in tactical approaches, it's like, wow, there's so much from soccer to rugby to even basketball. Um,
Tactical as far as playing the game or the use of the tech?
A little bit of both.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Just
So,
obviously
so then
different parameters.
the question was, do you think there's is the variance kind of inter or intra sport, and you feel like yeah, the variance is across all sports. There
Yeah.
isn't one way to do it for soccer and another way for rugby and so on and so forth. It's just people have the things that they're interested in finding more out about, and they do that.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Um, you spent what over a decade or so as a college strength coach?
Yeah.
Washed up strength coach. You can't be washed up when you're as young as you are. Come on. What led you to make the move to not doing that and doing this? Like you
Yeah.
just get tired of the college scene, you get tired of being an S&C coach and counting reps and blowing whistles and yelling at people in weight rooms. Like, what, you didn't like the role anymore, or is it something specific about technology that's, I mean, this is really interesting to me now. Let me learn more about that and see if I really dig it and work in it.
Yeah, probably honestly, Stu, a little bit of both. I think I caught myself not actually living up to the values that I claimed were important in my life um, while I was a coach. So I had to do some pretty deep reflection there. And ultimately made the decision to step away. And then I've always enjoyed the tech side. I can't say I'm the smartest with it, but it's always kind of been intriguing. A little bit of like problem solving and how does this help instead of hinder. And so I saw the opportunity become available with StatSports, and I actually used their technology while I was at Kent State, working with the football team there for a couple of years. So had the experience as a user, um, but didn't know all the background and fancy stuff that goes on behind the scenes. So that's been really fun to learn and to kind of see how things get pieced together.
Do you still do any coaching?
Um, Here and there, I have old athletes who reach out and, hey, can you get me a program? I'm going to go play in this, tournament wherever. And I'm like, yeah, sure.
Do you miss
So
the day-to-day part of coaching?
I do. I miss interacting with the athletes. I think, You have the opportunity to build amazing relationships with those people, and get to watch them grow into amazing husbands, wives, parents. Um, but again, I think the beauty of the position I'm in now is I still get to go back and be in a weight room and watch people coach, and yeah.
Do you feel like that still in this role? Because when I asked you why do you do it, it was, really trying to guide and help and mentor younger people. Do you
Mhm.
still have that opportunity as much in this role as you did when you were coaching?
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just kind of in a different arena. It's more around the technology, and um, honestly, I still somewhat talk X's and O's with people as well. Get in a weight room and they want to pick my brain just from experiences I've had. So,
Because that's an itch that most of us who work in this field have. We want to help
mhm,
others. It's kind of the job. And part of that is guiding people who are doing now what you used to do 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago.
mhm,
And I feel like that's one of the things that really draws a lot of people to coaching, the daily interactions and the daily guiding and facilitating of young people's lives. So I feel like it's an important point because I've talked now a bunch of people. Like, let me go back a little bit. So it's probably 15 years ago when I first saw like a really good strength and conditioning coach who's really well known, and I don't remember even who it was. And in fact, I do, but I'm not going to say his name. And he took a role with a technology company. And it seemed at the time that was okay. He must be sick of coaching, and he's going to go and do something else now. Like this is, or he's just done and couldn't get a job, or this is a different thing. And that used to be, that was really kind of surprising that somebody who's been a lifelong coach is going to go and do something else. He's moved on to a different field, a different industry, doing a different thing for a different reason. Fast forward a decade or 15 years, and more people now are doing these things as this industry has expanded to a point where now you don't just go in and there's only one job for you. There's only S&C coaching, and that's it. You can be an assistant, then you can be a director, and then what? Now there's multiple ways in which you can do similar things, still impacting young people, as you say, in similar ways, in different ways that may be of less interest or more interest or whatever as you grow through the career. So I feel like that's part of what I've come to realize that more, even just having these podcasts, because there's a bunch of people now that I've interviewed that are not S&C coaches anymore, and that's okay, you know.
sure.
Um, I don't know if I had a question off the back of that. It's just a thought, like that used to be. Those jobs weren't really readily available, and
Right.
people who were the tech people, the people working in science and technology, that was a different thing. That was a different job, almost in a different industry. And then you see, people like Daniel Guzman, who goes from being a performance coach and now he's working with 3x4 Genetics. He's called a performance director for 3x4 Genetics. He's still doing similar things in similar ways. It's just a slightly different job. And you see that, with S&C coaches or other coaches moving into the supplement industry. And so I think that the message here is sometimes we get into this, or the young people get into this field or this industry with one idea, and that's the job. It's an S&C coach, and they'll become a head S&C coach, and then they'll get a better job, and then a pro job, and then a better pro job, and then they're 50, and then okay, I'll figure it out when I'm 50. But there's way more than that. I think there's much more opportunities to do many different interesting things. And just because this thing doesn't interest you now doesn't necessarily mean that you've got to X out of the industry and go and do something else.
Yeah, I remember thinking to myself, Stu, how many strength coaches I've actually seen retire as a collegiate strength coach. And I could probably count on like one hand.
Yeah.
And I was like, whew. That's not to say I was ready to get out at that point, but I also thought to myself, if that's the reality of this profession, then I should probably begin to to at least kind of have that in the back of my brain of what could be next for Kaitlyn.
Yeah. I mean, so many of us just get into this because this is what we did. We were in sport. We love sport. As you
Sure.
said, you're an athlete. You saw some
Yeah.
people doing cool things. I don't want to do that. And you just
Yeah.
do it. And then 10 years later, I don't know if I really put in the work to understand how much work went into this and how little I get paid by doing this. So it's
Yeah.
by that time it's often too late, or you think it is never too late, but
Yeah.
it's just me doing a little rambling. I apologize. Um,
No,
so you used to host a podcast. Let's talk about that.
I did.
I'm sure you can
Yes.
give me many lessons on podcast hosting. I'm a rookie podcast host myself. I don't know how long I'm going to be doing this for, but I'm enjoying it so far. I'm enjoying having the conversations. Talk to me about that. Like, why did you start it? What was it about? And why haven't you done one in 2 years? Come on.
Stu's calling me out. Um, yeah, so I started the podcast, had done a little research myself, and noticed there weren't a lot of women um, on podcasts for a multitude of reasons. It could be whatever people were looking to showcase with their podcast. But I thought there's so many amazing women out there in the strength and conditioning field whose story need to be heard. So spoke to some people who had done podcasts before because there's no better people to learn from than somebody else who's done it, and got some tools and got set up and just started having conversations with people. The first episode was absolutely awful. I had my list of questions. I was ready to roll. Asked the first one, got the answer. Asked the second one. Told it was my mentor from Kansas. And I said, oh, like 30, 45 minutes. Within 15 minutes, I was done asking all my questions. So she turned around and then asked me questions. Um, so quite an epic first podcast. But again, had people who helped steer me and guide me and ultimately got better at asking questions and really asking questions to the question that was just answered. So really trying to dive deep into those answers and learn more about those specific things. Um,
How quickly did you get better at that?
that probably took me a little while.
Yeah.
I think it also took me a little while to truly ask for feedback from people. I think I was a little nervous, but
Hmm.
I'm very grateful I did because I think that helped me in all areas of life, right? The better questions you ask, um, the better answers you can get. And I mean, it helps in my current position. It helps with relationships and life with family. Um, so yeah, that was very eye-opening for me. Really enjoyed the podcast, but honestly, it's a lot of work. If you don't have people to help edit it and put the pieces together, um, it can take a
Kaylin, you
lot of
can do
time.
that now. You work in technology. You can find a tech, an AI thing that can
StatSports
do
could
this.
could sponsor it, right?
100%. You can do
Yeah,
this.
there we go.
You're going to be doing this again. I'm seeing into the future. What was the
Yeah.
podcast called?
Casey's Conversations, my initials
AC's
and just
Conversations. Is it
conversations.
still out there somewhere?
Oh yeah, it's on Spotify and Apple Music.
How
I
many
have
did you?
not I have not recorded an episode to answer your question, Stu, is I stepped away from coaching completely and the sports world completely
Yeah.
for about a year and a half.
Oh, you did.
And
I didn't know that.
yeah, I ended up actually working in a retirement community. It was
Okay.
very interesting. Really enjoyed it, but ultimately just realized that I'd rather kind of be around sport. So ended up here. But yeah, that year and a half, I just kind of let myself decompress. I didn't realize how like go 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 I always was. So it took that year and a half to just attempt to calm down a little bit and yeah, just haven't started it back up. But you're about the third person now who said that I need to get that puppy back and rolling. So it could be in the future.
It's going to be in the future. 100%. Casey's Conversations. Why do you think it is so difficult to ask questions? We talked about that a little bit earlier as well. Maybe
Yeah.
we even had that conversation prior to pressing record, but
Yeah.
it's not easy, you know? Like I think back to when I was a younger coach. It's still, you know, it's still hard for me today. Like it's asking questions is a lot easier for me today than it ever was. But the younger I was, it was really difficult. You know, when I first met Dan Paff, who's my primary mentor coach, Altis head coach, I sucked at asking questions. Like I was really bad, primarily because I didn't want Dan to think I was dumb, which is stupid. Like that's such a stupid reason for not asking a question. Not asking a question, the person who you're not asking the question of is going to think you're dumb. Oh, this cat thinks he knows it all, you know? That's why he's not asking questions. And it's, you know, we have interns now. We have 3 semesters a year. They go for 12 weeks, and we have 3 to 4 interns each time. And the first conversation we have with them is, your learning here is on you. You are responsible for your learning. You don't ask questions, you're not going to learn anything. If you are waiting for me to come to you and say, "Hey, what questions do you have today?" That's a problem. We have that conversation on day one, and typically 11 weeks later, they're still not asking questions anywhere near as often as they should and could be, you know? And then they leave and they send me an email of 100 questions. I said, no, that's not how this works. So what is it? Like, why do you think we're so bad at asking questions? Like, we know it's important. Everybody knows it's important. What stops us?
Yeah, I think to your point, the fear of looking dumb, the fear of I should know that answer.
But
Like,
we can even rationalize that, you know, like we can rationalize it to ourselves that, yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
yeah.
You know, yeah, I don't know this. If you don't know something, you ask something, and the person you're asking it of will respect that. They'll like that.
Hmm.
Or than you not asking the question. We know that,
Sure.
but we're still fearful of it.
Yeah. It's always interesting to me. I have a little nephew, and he's not fully speaking yet, but I'm like anticipating the why, why,
Mm.
why. And I think actually you hit on this at Altis and the breakout groups, but too many people ask what, and I'm at fault for this 100%. What should I do instead of why are you doing what you're doing? And then gathering the understanding to then be able to go apply in your area of expertise or, into your program. But I'm definitely at fault. I would ask the what because it's the easiest question to ask. What should I do? But people, if they're just telling you what to do, you're actually not learning. If you're asking why, you can gain the understanding and actually then apply it in a more logical sense. But that even hearing you say that at the summit was like, wow, that's really impactful.
I mean, I think all of us seek for the certainty and the clarity, simplicity sometimes. It's human nature. And I think that keeps us asking those what questions, you know, and I'm always, every talk I give and almost every conversation I have these days, people are getting tired of me talking about it, but I talk about complexity and systems and digging deeper into the nuance and understanding just a little bit deeper than the what. The what's interesting to a point, but I think it's eventually potentially even dangerous if that's all we do. We have to dig a little bit deeper than that. You know, it's I think I brought this book up at the summit, Warren Berger's A More Beautiful Question. Um, and hey, great job on buying the book. Um,
Execution.
it's a great book. It really is. He needs to give me a piece of all of the books that I've sold for this cat because I know it's a lot. Um, and you know, you had the Simon Sinek talk. It's probably a decade now, right? You start with why, and that's a great talk. It's a good little TED talk. You know, most people haven't read the book, but they've seen the TED talk. You know, start with why, and it's a great little story. You know, nobody cares what you do until they know why you do it. I encourage people to read the book. But for Warren Berger, who wrote, you know, A More Beautiful Question, that's not it. That's the beginning. You know, the beginning isn't what. The beginning is why. That's not the end. And, he's got two other, what he terms beautiful questions. Why, what if, and how might? And I just feel like, that framing, if we can start thinking a little bit more deeply around that, why do I do this? Why do you do this? What if we did this? What if we tried this? And then how might that look if we did that? And I feel like, if we can start framing all of our work and, much of our, even our thinking and questioning around that, I feel like we'd get a lot more about out of what we're trying to get here. I feel like if all you do is ask what, I don't think it's going to be a very successful career for you. And I don't think you're going to get as much out of it as really you could and should be. And I don't know if you saw this. I don't know if you were in the room during Lauren Landau's presentation. You were?
I saw part of it, yeah.
This was really interesting to me because I love Lauren, by the way. Like I've known Lauren for many years, and he's amazing. And he's the first part of his talk was, philosophical and just sort of talking about why he did things. And then the second half of his talk was the what. And he had a few people out on the gym floor doing things, doing the what things. And almost every other talk, there was a couple of, Les did the same thing, right? When Les had Carlin Isles and a couple other athletes out in the gym doing something. And you just look at the audience and how engaged they were when one of the speakers was showing what they were doing. And you compare that to when the speakers were talking about why they were doing things. It was really interesting difference and comparison. Everybody, when Lauren was doing that, front of their seat, leaning forward, phones out, taking film, like really engaged because somebody is showing what they do.
Yeah.
Somebody just talking about why they're doing some things, leaning back, looking at the ceiling, a couple of people falling asleep. Not to, this is human nature. Again, it's not a hit on any of these people. Like I find it really interesting. I really do. Even after many of the presentations up until that point were really digging deep into the philosophical stuff and why and what if and how might and all of these different things. So I feel like, again, I'm rambling, and this is me supposed to be interviewing you, so I apologize. But it goes back.
People need to hear it, Stu.
Yeah, it goes back to the question. You you sure? How many podcasts did you do? How many podcasts did you host?
I had 2 seasons worth.
Two
I don't
two
remember the
seasons.
exact number. Yeah.
So 2 seasons of 20-ish.
Yeah, 20 or 30, I would
20 or
imagine.
30. Yeah. So a lot. So I'm sure you got better.
Absolutely.
Good. The first one sucked. No
Sucked.
problem.
Absolutely. If I can make a recommendation, please don't go listen to it.
I won't. I won't. I'll listen. Actually, I will. I'll listen to the first one and the last one. And we'll
And the
see.
last
That's
one,
always
there you go.
interesting, right? It's always interesting to look at like go and listen to Andrew Huberman's first podcast, or Rich
Sure.
Roll's first podcast, or Joe Rogan's first podcast, and I listen to them now. Like they sucked. All of them. They
Yeah.
sucked. We all do at all things, and we get better by typically learning a little bit more about it. And in podcasting, you just become better at asking questions. Um, So what was it then how did you get better at asking questions? You
I
said
got
first one stuff.
challenged.
You just went 1, 2, 3, 4. You went down the list. Like what you
Yeah.
started actually listening?
Listening, and then the true curiosity to like want to learn more about their answer,
Yeah.
and got into the why, or a very simple statement of tell me more about that. Doesn't have to be super intricate, right? But getting it shouldn't be a lot of my voice on a podcast. It should be the person that I'm talking to, getting them to tell stories and then me help guide that.
That was a message to me there, wasn't it?
No, that was not at all. I actually told
You're
myself before I
talking too
got
much,
on,
Stu. Shut up.
I was like, I hope I don't ask Stu too many questions because I'm going to have a tendency to want to get his input, his thought process on things. Um, So I could have just let you talk the entire time, Stu. Um, but yeah, I just had to learn to dive deeper instead of asking the question, getting the surface level answer, and then just moving on. I had to like dig and prod because that's where I feel like you can find the gold, make people kind of dive deeper into their answers.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the word that jumped out to me in the first sentence there was curiosity. Just be
Yeah,
curious.
yeah,
And I feel like, if we just remind ourselves to be curious in all things, we'll get really far.
yeah.
Honestly, just keep that as for me, it's we had I've told the story before. I may have told it even at the summit. I think it's really important, so I'll tell it again. We had the team speed event here in Phoenix, a while ago, and one of the coaches at the end said, "What is the most important trait that you look for in young coaches?" And they asked myself and Danny Foley and Les Spellman, we were the three of us who were kind of running the event, hosting the event. And for me, it's clear, it's curiosity. Like curiosity for me is the driving trait. All the other things can come off of curiosity. But if you're not curious, I don't want to talk to you. I have no interest in you at all. If you're not curious enough to ask questions about why you're doing the things that you're doing, or why we're doing this thing, or how to get better at the thing that you're doing, what's the point of you? Like I really like curiosity for me is everything. So it's yeah, I really appreciated that answer.
Yeah, absolutely.
What were you curious about that you wanted to, you kind of alluded to it. You were curious about, why are there so few females on podcasts? Let me try
Yeah,
to do something about that. So it starts with that. An observation that, there's not many females. What did you say? There's 25%-ish?
yeah, if not less. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I would guess it was less. I was surprised that I don't know if you did an actual study of that to look, but I would think it'd be probably less than 10%. And so
The
that's
numbers are somewhere, Stu, but it's back in the old
yeah.
external hard drive from
So
back in the day.
it starts with that observation,
Yeah.
and then okay, that's a problem.
What's the solution?
I can probably do something about that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and then you did. So that's
Yeah.
awesome.
Thank you.
Um, so that's why you have to continue doing it.
There you go. There's probably a lot more females now than when I
Well, that
started.
that was my next question. Like now that, how long have you been working in the industry now? Uh,
At STATSports, about a year and a half.
no, like in the industry, in the
Oh, since 2012.
so a while,
Yeah,
like going on almost.
13 years. Yeah.
Have you seen female representation in the industry increase since then?
I think to the point you made earlier about the people that have started to kind of leave the industry and get into, whether it's tech or other kind of aligned areas, I think it's about the same.
Oh, the
I don't
same.
think the number's grown, yeah, very much.
Yeah, I wonder what the data shows. Um, Within our own, and this is just our experience, I don't know
Mhm.
what the numbers actually say. We used to, we have all these education events, so we've got, we can look at the data and look at the stats. I don't know off the top of my head, but it used to be like if we had one female come to an event,
Yeah,
we go, yeah,
you were doing good.
one out of 10 or 15, and
Yeah,
that was kind of normal. It's much better than that now. Like there's way more females come to our events now, and this I don't know if that's unique to us or I doubt it. I mean, I see that there's for me it looks like there's much more female representation in the entirety of the industry. Maybe not in college strength and conditioning or professional sport, but there
yeah,
seems to be maybe more private sector. But I feel like that whole thing is moving in a better direction.
yeah. Yeah, I think when I started working collegiate basketball and then collegiate football, I had some conversations with men in the industry and the coaching side of things, and one of them said to me, Coach, how many people on our team were primarily raised by a woman in their life, their mom, their grandma, their aunt? And I was like, man, Coach, probably upwards of 80% of them. And he's like, exactly. So why would I not have a woman right by my side to help me build a relationship with that kid? And I was like, that's really impactful.
Yeah, that's great. That's awesome. I love that.
Yeah.
Do you have advice to younger women sort of moving into stepping into performance arena or towards sport tech and just those kind of starting out? That's specific to women.
Yeah. I mean, don't ever give up and don't let someone tell you you can't do it. If your dream is to go work in the NFL, go do it.
Yeah.
There's other women who have done it before you. There will be more women behind you. And I think somebody made this point to me. If you wanted to go be a strength coach in the NFL, go find those people and figure out how they got there and then go do similar things. Um, Again, it goes back to questions, right? Go ask them. How did you get here? What was your journey? What things did you do? What things did you not do that you wished you did? Um, I think that can open so many doors for you and your journey to get to where you want to be.
I think that's really good advice. I was quite surprised that, we had that final roundtable discussion um, at the Speed Summit, and we had
Mhm.
Catherine Hickman there, who's the assistant general manager of the Cleveland Browns. That's a pretty powerful position in
Yeah.
the NFL. Like one of the most popular sports and the most popular professional league on the planet.
Yep.
And I think she's one of two female assistant general managers of the entire league.
Wow.
And there was one question, so the first when we put the questions out to the room, the first question was to Kat about that specifically, and that was it. No one else
Wow.
wanted to ask a single question to Kat about that specifically, which I thought, all right, that's either a good thing or a bad thing, or maybe it's not, maybe it's neither. But I just thought it was pretty interesting that I thought that was going to be a topic of interest, especially for the females in the room, and we had a lot of them,
Yeah.
but maybe it was, we didn't create the space that uh, uh, enabled the conversation to kind of emerge, or maybe they just weren't interested. I don't know.
Or they had that fear. Never know.
Kaitlyn, I appreciate you coming on. It was I really enjoyed talking to you in Chicago and getting to know you a little bit more in the last about 50 minutes or so.
Yeah.
I talked way too much in that podcast. I'm sorry. I thought it was a great conversation, but uh, if I was a better podcast host, I would be a little bit more tight with some of my questions, and I would ramble a little bit too, or a little bit less. Anyways, I really enjoyed the conversation with Kaitlyn. Hopefully, you guys did too. Um, a reminder that growth in this space doesn't always come from grinding harder and doing the same thing over and over and over again. Sometimes we have to pivot a little bit and maybe look to do something a little bit different. Whether you're a coach, a practitioner, or just someone figuring out your next move, I think Kaitlyn's path offers something to reflect on. As we mentioned earlier, we're working on a digital release from the Speed Summit, pulling together the best talks, discussions, and insights from Chicago. Keep an eye out at altis.world for updates. Thank you once again to our great sponsors, 3x4 Genetics, STATSports, 1080 Sprint, Team Builder, and Output Sports for all of their support. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.